Infertility is a silent, relentless shadow. It whispers doubts into your ear, tests your patience, and often strains even the strongest of relationships. For years, I lived under its weight. My husband, David, and I had been trying to have a child for nearly a decade. We went through every possible medical consultation, countless fertility treatments, and endless nights of teary conversations where we promised each other that we wouldn't give up, that our dream of becoming parents would someday come true. When we first started trying, there was excitement, hope, and even joy in the process. But as the months turned into years, that joy turned to frustration, and frustration turned into heartache. Each failed pregnancy test felt like a fresh wound, a cruel reminder of what we couldn't have. Despite the pain, David was my rock, or so I believed. He was always there to hold me when I cried, to remind me that we were in this together, to assure me that our bond was unshakable no matter what life threw our way. By year 5 of trying, our lives had become a revolving door of doctors' offices, hormone injections, and quiet despair. Friends and family, though well-meaning, didn't understand the enormity of our struggle. Some gave unsolicited advice, others offered the empty comfort of, "It'll happen when the time is right," while a few began to pull away altogether, as if our inability to conceive made them uncomfortable. Still, David and I pushed forward, united in our desire to start a family. We even began exploring adoption as an option, though the process was daunting and felt like an admission of defeat, something neither of us was ready to accept at the time. But for all the strain infertility brought into our lives, it also reinforced the love and partnership we shared. Or so I thought. Then one evening, everything changed. It was a typical Thursday night. I had spent the day immersed in work, trying to distract myself from the endless cycle of appointments and disappointments. David had been unusually quiet when he came home, his usual warmth replaced by an unfamiliar tension. I could tell something was bothering him, but I chalked it up to stress from work and didn't press him about it. We had dinner in near silence, the clinking of utensils against plates filling the void where conversation would normally be. As I began clearing the table, he suddenly spoke. "We need to talk," he said, his voice low and heavy. I froze, the plates trembling slightly in my hands as I turned to face him. "What's wrong?" I asked, my heart pounding with a mixture of concern and dread. He hesitated, running a hand through his hair, his eyes fixed on the floor. "There's something I need to tell you," he said, "something I should have told you a long time ago." The room seemed to tilt around me. My mind raced with possibilities, none of them good. Was he sick? Was he leaving me? Had he done something unforgivable? I forced myself to take a deep breath, bracing for whatever was about to come. I have a child," he said finally, his voice barely above a whisper. "A son." For a moment, I couldn't comprehend the words. They hung in the air, foreign and incomprehensible, as if spoken in a language I didn't understand. "What are you talking about?" I managed to say, my voice trembling. He looked up at me then, his eyes filled with guilt and something else, fear, maybe, or shame. "It happened before we met," he explained. "I was young and stupid, and I had a brief relationship with someone. She got pregnant, but I wasn't ready to be a father. I was scared, so I walked away. I sent money, but I never stayed involved. I told myself it was the right thing to do at the time, but I've regretted it ever since." I stared at him, the weight of his confession pressing down on me like a physical force. "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked, my voice shaking with a mix of anger, confusion, and heartbreak. "Because," he said, his voice breaking, "I've been carrying this secret for so long, and I can't do it anymore. And because his mother passed away recently, and now he needs someone. He needs me." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. For years, I had poured every ounce of myself into trying to create a family with this man. I had endured physical, emotional, and financial strain for the dream of having a child, a dream that felt more distant with each passing year. And now, out of nowhere, he was telling me that he already had what I had spent years yearning for. And worse, he wanted to bring that child into our lives, as if it were as simple as adding a new piece to a puzzle. I couldn't speak. I couldn't think. The room felt too small, the air too thick. I turned and walked away, my mind racing with questions I wasn't ready to ask and emotions I didn't know how to process. The hours after David's confession passed in a haze. I locked myself in our bedroom, sitting on the edge of the bed as the weight of everything pressed down on me. I stared at the walls, my mind spinning with 1,000 unanswered questions. How could he keep something so monumental from me for years? How could he let me suffer through the heartbreak of infertility while knowing he had already fathered a child? And now, how could he expect me to welcome that child into my life, into our marriage, as if this secret wouldn't shatter everything? David didn't try to force the conversation. He stayed downstairs, giving me space, but I could feel his unease radiating through the silence. And I understood why. I wasn't just angry or hurt. I was lost. Everything I thought I knew about him, about us, was now in question. The years we spent dreaming of a family, supporting each other through failed treatments and dashed hopes, it all felt like a cruel joke. By morning, I had regained enough composure to face him, though my emotions were still raw. He was sitting on the living room couch, his head in his hands, and when he looked up at me, his expression was one of sheer regret. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I know this is too much. I know I hurt you." I sat down across from him, my voice quiet but firm. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I asked, the question burning inside me. "Why would you keep something like this from me for all these years?" He sighed, his shoulders slumping. "Because I was ashamed. I thought if I told you, you wouldn't see me the same way. And I didn't want to lose you." I shook my head, the tears threatening to spill again. "You didn't want to lose me, but instead you lied to me. You let me go through the pain of infertility without knowing the truth. Do you even understand how much that hurts?" "I do," he said quickly, his voice breaking. "I do, and I hate myself for it. But when his mother passed away, and I realized he had no one, I couldn't ignore it anymore. I couldn't keep pretending like he didn't exist." The room grew silent as I tried to process his words. I felt torn between anger and empathy, betrayal and understanding. Part of me wanted to scream at him for his deceit, while another part recognized the weight of his guilt and the responsibility he was now trying to take. "What's his name?" I asked quietly, almost against my own will. David looked at me, surprised, as if he hadn't expected the question. "Ethan," he said. "He's 9 years old." 9 years. Ethan had existed for nearly a decade, and I had known nothing. The thought made my heart ache, not just for myself, but for the boy who had spent his life without a father present. "What happens now?" I asked, my voice trembling. David hesitated, his eyes pleading. "I know I don't deserve to ask this of you," he said, "but I want Ethan to come live with us. I want to be there for him, to give him the family he's never had. And I want you to be part of that family." His words hung in the air, heavy with emotion. I stood up, pacing the room as I tried to make sense of everything. My instinct was to say no, to tell him that this was his problem to fix, not mine. But as I thought about Ethan, his innocence, his loss, I couldn't ignore the part of me that felt drawn to him, despite the circumstances. "I need time," I said finally, stopping to look at David. "I can't make this decision right now. I need time to figure out what I can handle." He nodded, his relief visible even through his guilt. "Take all the time you need," he said. "I'll wait. Just, please don't give up on us." Over the next week, I immersed myself in reflection. I thought about Ethan, about David's betrayal, about the life I had imagined for us versus the life now being thrust upon us. It wasn't easy. There were moments when the anger seemed insurmountable, moments when I questioned if our marriage could survive this. But there were also moments when I thought about what could come from this, if I chose to embrace it. Eventually, I made a decision. I sat David down and told him that I was willing to meet Ethan, but that it would take time for me to adjust. "I'm doing this for him," I said, my voice steady. "Not for you. I need you to prove that you're worthy of my trust again." David's gratitude was palpable, his promises earnest. And when I met Ethan for the first time, a quiet, shy boy with eyes that mirrored his father's, I felt a flicker of hope. It wasn't easy, and it wouldn't be for a long time. But as we began to navigate this new chapter together, I realized that while David's betrayal had shaken me, it hadn't broken me. And perhaps, in time, this unexpected journey could lead to something closer to healing. For all of us.